Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Poetry in VGC. I am the host, Big Mike VGC, and today we are going to be going over the foil to the poem that we covered last time, The Tiger, this time with The Lamb, again by William Blake. And before I get into this poem, I just want to apologize for the poor quality of last video. Not only was the fans on in the background, there's a fan on in my background right now, but I don't think it's being picked up. But I mistook talons for tremors, I think, and that's just embarrassing. I apologize. Also, there may have been something wrong. I may have stuttered over my words or something completely unprofessional, but today we are just going to put that behind us and move on to the next one. So again, this is The Lamb by William Blake. Little lamb, who made thee? Dost thou know who made thee? Gave thee life and bid thee feed by the stream and o'er the mead, gave thee clothing of delight, softest clothing, woolly bright, gave thee such a tender voice, making all the vales rejoice. Little lamb, who made thee? Dost thou know who made thee? Little lamb, I'll tell thee, little lamb, I'll tell thee. He is called by thy name, for he calls himself a lamb. He is meek and he is mild. He became a little child. I a child and thou a lamb, we are called by his name. Little lamb, God bless thee. Little lamb, God bless thee. Again, that was The Lamb by William Blake, and it's quite apparent how this is a foil to The Tiger. Not only does it appear more innocent in the tone, it feels like a child singing, which the speaker is a child. We know that by the fourth to last line of the second stanza. He says, I a child and thou a lamb. Whether that's referring to a physical child or a mental child, like as an adult who's acting like a child or believes in the childlike wonders, maybe you could interpret it as the innocence of the poem is brought out by the childlike nature of the speaker. But the first stanza, I don't know if you can call it a stanza, but the first part talks about the physical natures of the poem, of the lamb. The clothing of delight, the woolly bright, gave it such a tender voice, making all the vales rejoice. So those are physical descriptions of the lamb itself, but then it goes more into the maker in the second, where it's an obvious reference to the Christian faith, to Jesus himself, calling by the Lamb, which, if you're not familiar, that's the Lamb of God is traditionally referred to as Jesus. And it's quite a profound explanation there, the comparison to the lamb and the childlike nature. But there's also something more. There's sort of a complex depth to this poem that I didn't realize until after reading an analysis of this poem. The child is asking a question to this lamb, and it's a child talking to an animal, so that makes sense. I do that all the time. I talk to my dog all the time, but he's sort of asking a deep philosophical question to this lamb: who made thee? And then he answers it, which sort of gives it a different tone. It sort of makes the question different. Instead of asking, is there a God, it sort of is wondering, why? Why is there a God? Sort of questioning the morality of everything. And I think this poem really partners well with The Tiger, because there's no sense of evil in this poem at all. It is talking about the good of the Christian faith, which is the creation of God, or the creation by God, and the Lamb, Jesus Christ. But it's failing to talk about the presence of evil. So it's really hard to take these two poems separately. It's sort of, the lamb sort of just doesn't have any meaning without reading The Tiger first, and The Tiger has gained a lot more meaning after reading The Lamb. It sort of gives a different insight into, more specifically the Christian faith, but also a deeper level of moral understanding that I think is absent in some other forms of poetry that try to ask that question. And instead of trying to because there's no way these two poems would have worked together in one. There's no way. There's the completely different themes, completely different rhyme schemes, completely different structure. So it's essential that these two poems be separated, and I think that it really gives a good sort of viewpoint of religion and, objective morality, if it's objective to you, I guess, but also, how to take on life. The tiger was dark and foreboding, and it was evil. It was talking about the sinews of its heart, the dark fiery eyes, not really pleasant. But at the end it says, did he who made the lamb make thee? Sort of, it's hard to imagine the lamb being compared or being talked about in the same structure as the tiger, and the tiger being compared to as the same structure of the lamb. I just want to compliment the writer. This is, fantastic pieces of poetry. I think that this is an insane amount of detail to go into with only, 4 total stanzas, if you could call it that, of poetry. And I think it, instead of delving into one, instead of saying, oh, this is all the positive things about religion and morality, or this is all the negative things about religion and morality, Blake manages to describe both of them, actually, in a pretty objective sense. Maybe not objective, but in a pretty astute sense, to where he's able to give that much detail. And, these are insanely good poems. So I'm going to link the lamb in the description below, but goodness gracious, I really, really would recommend that if you're watching this, go read the poems, pull out the SparkNote analysis of it and read it. It is a pretty intense but pretty amazing piece of poetry. I don't know if I've ever read anything that, quite captures the emotional feel and the spiritual pull that religion and morality has as these poems. So, wow, that was great. I sort of went off the script almost there and sort of opened my third eye trying to talk about it, but in the video, this is like the 4th straight time I've used Duraludon to success. Again, I think it was an Ndidi in the beginning, or Clefairy or something, trying to use Follow Me, but I Dynamaxed because I brought the Charizard in the bag. I wasn't expecting to have to Dynamax my Duraludon, but I ended up Dynamaxing it because I know how much of a threat that... Oh, what's that Pokemon? The water type starter final evolution that gets Liquid Voice. I know how much of a Primarina. I know how much of a threat it is, and I was able to use Stalwart again. That's essentially the video. So, wow, that's some good poems. I want to thank everyone for watching, and we're close to the 10 subscriber mark. So I want to thank everyone for all the support, and just hope you keep watching. So I will not be uploading VGC and poetry this weekend. I'm going out of town, but I will try my best to get one out Monday or maybe Sunday evening, so stay tuned. Alright, thank you for watching.